feels like something is changing, but you can't put your finger on it. You pray, you seek answers, but God remains silent. What if I told you that this silence is a sign? What if the very confusion you're experiencing is evidence that something greater is on its way? God does not prepare ordinary vessels for extraordinary blessings. He refines, He stretches, He tests, and He purifies. If you have been feeling an unusual pressure, an overwhelming sense of waiting, or even an unexpected shift in your circumstances, don't ignore it. Stay with me till the end of this message, because what I am about to share might be the very confirmation you've been seeking. When God is about to release something great into your life, He first prepares you to handle it. Many people miss their season of breakthrough because they don't recognize the signs of divine transition. God does not give big blessings to those who are unprepared. He ensures that when the blessing arrives, you are equipped to steward it well. That's why the process before the blessing is often filled with trials, unexpected delays, and sometimes even loss. You must understand that the bigger the blessing, the greater the preparation. One of the first signs that something big is coming is that you start experiencing unusual disruptions in your life. Suddenly, things that once worked for you begin to break down. Doors that were always open suddenly close. Relationships you thought were strong start to fall apart. You try to hold on, but everything seems to be slipping through your fingers. This is not a punishment. It is God's way of repositioning you. Before God gives you something new, He often allows the old to be removed. Abraham had to leave his homeland before he could receive the promise. Joseph had to be thrown into a pit before he could reach the palace. What looks like loss is often a divine shift in disguise. Another sign that something big is coming is that you feel unusually isolated. You may find yourself in a season where people misunderstand you, where you feel disconnected from those around you, even from those you once relied on. This isolation is not accidental, it is intentional. God isolates you when He wants to reveal something to you that others cannot comprehend. Jesus often withdrew to solitary places to pray. Paul spent years in the wilderness before stepping into his calling. There are revelations that can only come in the quiet, in the stillness, in the absence of distractions. When God is preparing to elevate you, He will sometimes remove voices from your life so that you can hear His voice more clearly. You may also notice an increase in spiritual attacks. The enemy does not waste his resources on those who are not a threat. If you are suddenly facing increased warfare, doubts, temptations, financial struggles, emotional battles, it is because you are on the brink of something powerful. The devil is afraid of what you are about to step into, and he wants to discourage you before you get there. But remember this, the enemy only attacks what he fears. The resistance you are facing is proof that you are carrying something valuable. If you weren't dangerous to the kingdom of darkness, you wouldn't be a target. There is also a sense of restlessness that comes before a breakthrough. You may feel like you no longer fit in places that once felt comfortable. The conversations that once excited you now seem empty. The things that once satisfied you now feel meaningless. You may also notice that opportunities begin to come in unexpected ways. Suddenly, doors that were once closed start to open, but not in the way you expected. You might meet someone who introduces you to a connection that changes everything. You might receive an idea, an instruction, or a conviction that leads you in a new direction. When God is about to do something big, He orchestrates divine connections. The right people will start appearing in your life. Unexpected resources will come your way. The problem is, many people do not recognize these moments. They overlook small opportunities because they expect something grand. But God often moves in ways that seem insignificant at first. Another major sign is that your faith is being stretched like never before. You may find yourself in situations where you have no choice but to trust God completely. Your resources may dry up, your plans may fail, your strength may run out. This is because God is shifting you from self-reliance to total dependence on Him. He will allow you to reach the end of yourself so that you can experience the fullness of His power. If you have been feeling like you are at a breaking point, don't give up. This is the place where miracles happen. God will also test your obedience in small things before he entrusts you with bigger things. You may feel a sudden conviction to let go of certain habits, to walk away from certain relationships, or to make difficult choices that don't make sense to those around you. God is watching your willingness to follow him without question. The rich young ruler wanted to follow Jesus, but he was unwilling to release his possessions. God will always ask for the thing that has your heart before he gives you what is in his hand. If he is prompting you to surrender something, it is because he is making room for something greater. And lastly, one of the most profound signs that God is about to give you something big is an overwhelming sense of expectancy. You can't explain it, but deep in your spirit you know something is coming. You may not see any evidence of it yet, but your faith is being stirred. This is because your spirit is picking up on what is happening in the unseen realm, just as a pregnant woman begins to prepare for a child she hasn't seen yet. Your soul begins to prepare for what God is bringing. If you are experiencing any of these signs, do not be discouraged. Do not give up. The discomfort, the isolation, the waiting, the warfare, all of it is proof that you are on the verge of something greater. God is not punishing you. He is preparing you. Stay faithful, stay obedient, and most importantly, stay expectant. Because when God is about to give you something big, he always gives you signs. If only you have eyes to see them. When God is preparing you for something beyond your imagination, he begins to refine you in ways that may seem painful, confusing, or even unfair. But every challenge, every delay, and every moment of uncertainty is a divine setup for what is coming. God does not move. You may have noticed that your plans are no longer working the way they used to. The things that once brought you success are suddenly ineffective. The strategies that used to open doors are now leading to dead ends. This is a sign that God is shifting you into a new dimension. He is closing doors not to punish you, but to redirect you. When Elijah was fed by the ravens at the brook, there came a time when the brook dried up, not because God had abandoned him, but because it was time for the next assignment. If the brook had remained full, Elijah would have never moved forward. God allows certain things to dry up in your life so that you do not remain in a place that is no longer meant for you. Sometimes the greatest frustration comes when you feel ready, but nothing seems to be happening. You pray, you fast, you seek God, but the heavens seem silent. What you don't realize is that silence is part of the process. God is testing your heart in the waiting season. Will you still trust him when nothing is changing? Will you still worship him when your prayers seem unanswered? Many people miss their breakthrough because they allow impatience to drive them out of position. They take matters into their own hands instead of waiting for God's timing. But there is a difference between delay and denial. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't happen. God is watching how you handle the waiting, because the way you wait determines the way you will walk in the blessing when it comes. During this time, you may also experience betrayal from people you least expected. Friends who once stood by you may suddenly turn away. People you trusted may misunderstand you or distance themselves from you. This is one of the most painful parts of preparation, but it is necessary. God removes the wrong people from your life before he elevates you. Not everyone is meant to go where he is taking you. Some relationships are seasonal, and if you try to hold on to them beyond their season, they will only hinder your progress. Judas had to betray Jesus so that the crucifixion could take place. Joseph's brothers had to betray him so that he could reach Egypt. What feels like rejection is often divine protection. God is pruning your circle because he does not want you to carry unnecessary baggage into your next season. You may also begin to feel an unusual level of discomfort in your current situation. Things that used to satisfy you no longer bring you peace. You wake up feeling like you were meant for more, even though you don't know what that more is yet. This is because God is stirring your spirit. He is creating a holy dissatisfaction so that you do not settle where you are. The children of Israel had to feel the discomfort of slavery before they were ready to leave Egypt. Sometimes God allows discomfort to push you into destiny. If you feel a divine restlessness, do not ignore it. It is a sign that you are being called to something greater. At the same time, you may notice that your faith is being tested like never before. The things that used to be easy now require a deeper level of trust. The situations that once had clear solutions now require you to walk by faith, not by sight. God stretches your faith before He enlarges your territory. If you are facing challenges that seem impossible, it is because God is strengthening your dependence on Him. He does not want you to rely on your own ability, your own wisdom, or your own resources. He wants you to trust Him completely. When Peter stepped out of the boat, he had to trust that Jesus would sustain him on the water. When God is preparing you for something big, He will ask you to step into the unknown before you see the provision. There will also be moments when God asks you to let go of things that are familiar. He may call you to leave a job, walk away from an opportunity, or release something you thought was part of your future. This is one of the hardest tests of faith because it requires obedience without explanation. Abraham was called to leave his homeland without knowing where he was going. He obeyed because he trusted God's voice more than his own understanding. When God is shifting you, He will ask you to walk away from things that no longer align with where He is taking you. If you hold on too tightly to what is fading, you may miss what He is bringing. Another sign that something big is coming is that you begin to receive divine insight and revelation. God starts to open your spiritual eyes to things you never noticed before. Scriptures that you have read many times suddenly take on new meaning. You begin to discern things in the Spirit that others cannot see. This is because God is increasing your wisdom for the next season. He is giving you the ability to recognize His voice in ways you never have before. The more you seek Him, the more He reveals. This is why your hunger for His presence increases during times of transition. You may find yourself craving more time in prayer, more time in His Word, and more time in worship. Do not ignore this hunger. It is evidence that you are being positioned for something greater. And as God prepares you, you may also notice that doors begin to open in ways you never expected. People you have never met before suddenly show up in your life to offer guidance, support, or opportunities. Divine connections begin to form. The right conversations take place at the right time. This is not coincidence. It is divine alignment. When God is ready to shift you, He sends the right people into your life. He positions you in the right places. He orchestrates moments that seem too perfect to be random. Pay attention to these moments because they are part of the preparation process. But even as doors open, there will also be moments when things seem to get worse before they get better. This is where many people give up. Just when they think they are close to their breakthrough, opposition increases. Everything seems to go wrong. They begin to question whether they heard God correctly. But what they don't realize is that the greatest attacks come right before the greatest breakthroughs. The enemy always fights hardest when he knows you are about to step into something powerful. If your battles have intensified, it is because you are on the verge of something big. Do not retreat now. Do not give up when you are this close. Through all of this, God is watching your response. Will you trust Him even when you don't understand? Will you stay faithful even when things are difficult? Will you keep walking when the path is unclear? Because those who endure, those who remain steadfast, are the ones who receive the fullness of what God has promised. Many people forfeit their blessing because they stop too soon. They let fear, doubt, and frustration pull them out of alignment. But if you can hold on, if you can keep trusting, if you can keep pressing forward, you will see the manifestation of what God has spoken over your life. God does not make mistakes, because if He has allowed you to go through these trials, it is because He is preparing you for something greater. If He has let certain things be removed from your life, it is because He is making room for something better. Every tear, every setback, every lonely night has been part of the process. Do not lose heart now. The breakthrough is closer than you think. When God is preparing you for something extraordinary, He allows a process that will refine you in ways that often feel uncomfortable. The process is never easy because it is designed to shape your character, build your endurance, and prepare your heart for the responsibility that comes with greater blessings. Many people desire a breakthrough, but few are willing to endure the transformation required to receive it. The anointing that God places on your life requires preparation, and that preparation often comes in the form of challenges, pruning, and stretching beyond what you thought you could bear. There will be seasons when everything feels like it is falling apart, but in reality, things are falling into place. The things you once relied on may begin to fade, forcing you to depend on God like never before. He allows these moments not to destroy you, but to bring you closer to Him. When the Israelites wandered through the wilderness, they experienced lack, discomfort, and uncertainty. But it was all part of the journey toward the promised land. God was teaching them to trust Him daily for provision, to rely on Him for guidance, and to depend on Him for victory. The same is happening in your life right now. You may find yourself in a season where doors are closing, opportunities are disappearing, and the things you used to enjoy no longer satisfy you. This is because God is shifting your focus. He is pulling you away from temporary distractions so that you can prepare for eternal purpose. Many people miss their calling because they refuse to let go of what is familiar. They hold on to relationships, jobs, and routines that no longer serve them. But when God is about to do something new, He removes what is old. He cannot pour new wine into old wineskins. He cannot take you into the next level if you are still clinging to the past. God will also begin to test your ability to walk in obedience. He may ask you to do things that make no sense in the natural. He may instruct you to step into unknown territory, to give when you feel like you have nothing left, to serve when you feel unappreciated, or to trust when everything around you looks uncertain. This is where faith is truly tested. Will you obey God even when you don't understand? Will you step out even when there is no clear path ahead? Abraham was asked to leave everything he knew and go to a land that God would show him. He had no map, no details, no guarantees, only a promise. And because he obeyed, he became the father of many nations. During this time, you may feel isolated, as though no one understands what you are going through. You may feel like your prayers are hitting a wall, like God is distant. But silence is not absence. God is not ignoring you. He is observing you. He is watching how you respond to adversity. He is testing your endurance, your patience, and your trust in Him. Many people expect immediate results when they pray, but God's timing does not operate on human expectations. When Joseph was thrown into prison, he could have given up. He could have doubted the dreams that God had given him. But he remained faithful even in the darkest moments. And in God's perfect time, he was elevated to a position of authority that he never could have reached on his own. There will also be moments of intense warfare. The enemy knows that something great is coming, and he will do everything he can to discourage, distract, and deceive you. You may face sudden attacks, unexpected obstacles, and overwhelming challenges that make you question if you're on the right path. This is not a sign to retreat. It is confirmation that you are getting closer to your breakthrough. The enemy does not attack people who are not a threat. If the opposition in your life has increased, it is because your anointing has increased. It is because your purpose is greater than you realize. The battles you face today are preparing you for the victories that are ahead. You may begin to see signs of acceleration where things start shifting suddenly. Divine connections begin to form. Doors that were once closed start to open, and opportunities come unexpectedly. This is God's way of showing you that you are stepping into a new season. But acceleration also requires responsibility. You cannot carry an old mindset into a new season. You cannot rely on old habits to sustain you in a place of greater influence. God will expose areas in your life that need refinement. He will challenge you to grow spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. Many people pray for elevation, but they are not willing to be pruned. They want the blessing without the discipline. But God will not promote you beyond what your character can sustain. The waiting period is often the most difficult part of the journey. It is in the waiting that doubt creeps in, that fear whispers lies, that impatience tempts you to take matters into your own hands. But waiting is never wasted time. It is in the waiting that God strengthens you. It is in the waiting that He develops you. David was anointed as king long before he sat on the throne. He had to go through seasons of hiding, of serving, of being misunderstood before he stepped into his destiny. But every season prepared him for what was ahead. If you are in a waiting season, do not despise it. Do not rush what God is doing. The promise is still coming, but the process must be completed first. You may also notice an increase in revelation. Scriptures that you have read before suddenly take on new meaning. You begin to hear God's voice more clearly. He starts to reveal things to you about your purpose, your future, and your identity in Him. This is because He is preparing you spiritually for the next level. Many people want to be used by God, but they do not spend time in His presence. They want to walk in power, but they do not seek Him in prayer. The closer you draw to God, the more He reveals. The more time you spend with Him, the more He deposits into your spirit. There will be moments when you are tempted to give up, when the pressure feels too great, when the road ahead seems too difficult. But this is not the time to quit. This is the time to press forward. The enemy wants you to stop right before your breakthrough. He wants you to believe that the struggle will never end, that the promise will never come. But God is faithful. He has not brought you this far to leave you. Every tear, every sacrifice, every act of obedience has been seen by Him. And in His perfect time, He will release the blessing that He has been preparing for you. Do not be discouraged if the journey is taking longer than expected. God is not in a hurry. He is building something that will last. He is preparing you for something that will not just bless you, but bless generations to come. What He is doing in your life is bigger than you realize. The process may be painful, but the reward will be worth it. Keep trusting, keep believing, and keep moving forward. Your breakthrough is closer than you think. The journey to receiving what God has for you is one that requires unwavering faith, unshakable trust, and relentless endurance. It is not for the faint of heart, nor for those who are easily discouraged. There will be moments when it feels like everything around you is resisting your breakthrough, as if the very atmosphere is working against you. But what you must understand is that resistance is often the greatest indicator that you are on the verge of something extraordinary. The enemy does not attack what is not a threat. The opposition in your life right now is proof that you're stepping into something far greater than you can imagine. The greater the resistance, the greater the reward. One of the most difficult aspects of this journey is learning to discern the difference between God's delay and God's denial. When prayers seem to go unanswered, when doors remain closed, when everything in you wants to give up, it is easy to assume that God is saying no. But what if He is simply saying not yet? What if the delay is actually God's protection? What if the closed doors are saving you from something you cannot yet see? The Bible says that all things work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to His purpose. This means that even the setbacks, even the disappointments, even the moments that feel like failure are all working together to position you for what God has planned. This is why trust is so essential. It is easy to trust God when everything is going well, when doors are opening, when prayers are being answered immediately. But true faith is revealed in the waiting. True faith is built in the moments when you don't see progress, when you don't hear God speaking, when you feel like you are wandering without direction. Abraham had to wait decades for the promise of God to be fulfilled. Joseph had to endure betrayal, slavery, and imprisonment before he stepped into his calling. David had to flee for his life before he ever sat on the throne. Every great move of God is preceded by a period of preparation. And preparation is never comfortable. One of the signs that you are close to your breakthrough is that the enemy increases his attacks against you. You may notice that things that were once easy suddenly become difficult. Relationships that were once strong start to feel strained. People you trusted begin to distance themselves. Temptations that you thought you had overcome start resurfacing. This is not a coincidence. The enemy is desperate to get you to quit before you reach what God has for you. He wants you to believe that the battle is too hard, that the weight is too heavy, that the journey is too long. But God never allows a battle that you are not equipped to win. The enemy may roar like a lion, but he has no real power over you. The only way he can win is if you give up. When you are on the verge of something big, God will often place you in situations that require complete dependence on Him. The resources you once relied on may dry up. The opportunities you once had may disappear. The people who once supported you may walk away. This is not punishment, it is preparation. God is teaching you that He alone is your source. When Elijah was by the brook, God provided for him supernaturally, sending ravens to feed him. But then the brook dried up. Elijah could have panicked. He could have doubted God's provision. But instead, he waited for direction, and God led him to a new place of provision. Sometimes God allows certain things to dry up in your life because He wants to lead you somewhere greater. Another sign that you are stepping into something big is that your spirit becomes restless. You start feeling uncomfortable in places where you once felt at home. The things that used to excite you no longer satisfy you. You feel a stirring in your heart, a holy discontent that makes you hunger for more. This is because God is shifting you. He is awakening something inside of you that can no longer be content with mediocrity. He is preparing you for a new level, and new levels require new mindsets. You cannot carry an old mindset into a new season. You cannot expect to step into greater things while still holding on to old ways of thinking. God will also begin to give you glimpses of your future. He will start revealing pieces of His plan in ways that ignite your spirit. You may begin to have dreams that speak to your purpose. You may start encountering people who confirm what God has been telling you. You may notice a pattern in the lessons God is teaching you, as if He is pointing you towards something greater. These are not random coincidences. They are divine indicators that God is leading you into something new. But with every revelation comes responsibility. The more God reveals to you, the more He requires of you. Many people want God to show them their future, but they are not willing to be obedient with what He has already told them. One of the most painful parts of this process is that some people in your life will not be able to go where God is taking you. There will be relationships that fade, friendships that end, and connections that no longer fit. This can be heartbreaking, but it is necessary. Not everyone is meant to walk with you into your next season. Some people were assigned to your past, but they cannot handle your future. Lot could not go with Abraham to the place God was calling him. Judas could not go with Jesus to the cross. Some people are only part of your story for a season, and holding on to them longer than you should can delay what God is trying to do in your life. In this season, you must be careful about who you allow to speak into your life. Not everyone who has an opinion has wisdom. Not everyone who offers advice is being led by God. You must learn to discern the voices around you. Are they pushing you closer to God or pulling you away? Are they encouraging you to step out in faith or feeding your doubts? The wrong voices can delay your destiny. The wrong influences can weaken your faith. This is why Jesus often withdrew to be alone with the Father. He understood that in order to stay aligned with His purpose, He had to remain connected to the source. God will begin to refine your character in ways that feel uncomfortable. He will expose weaknesses that need to be strengthened. He will bring situations that test your patience, your humility, your ability to love unconditionally. Many people want a great calling, but they do not want to go through the process of becoming the person who can carry that calling. The anointing comes with a cost. The purpose comes with preparation. Before God places you on a platform, He will develop your foundation. If the foundation is not strong, the platform will not last. This is why some people rise quickly but fall just as fast.